Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see my screen clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Let's not take too much time. Let's make this brief and short. So, welcome everybody. You're welcome to this week's FX Outlook for the 30th of January to the 3rd of February 2023. So, as always, we're going to first start off with the economic calendar, and this week is very interesting. Very, very interesting. There are lots of high impact news lined up, especially from Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to have FOMC from Wednesday. Then we are going to have, on Thursday, we're going to have Bank of England and Euro on Thursday. So that's going to be very, very interesting. Then we have non-farm payroll on Friday. So this week is going on a very, 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 very interesting. Very, very interesting. So as always, we're going to start off with NASDAQ. Let me remove all my annotations. So looking at NASDAQ, this pair is still bullish. It's still bullish for now. Order flow on this pair is still bullish. It's knocking out all the highs. So if we move down to the daily, we can see that liquidity above here has been swept. Liquidity above here has been swept, and then there's still a fair value gap. There's still this big fair value gap here. So on this pair, it's still bullish. So now let's go down to the 4-hour time frame. If we go down to the 4-hour time frame, and then we pull back all our annotations because it won't be so crowded there. This pair is still bullish, but it may retrace a bit. It may retrace a bit. It has taken liquidity here. So you might see a bit of a pullback and then a continuation. And that continuation might try to fill in this fair value gap and this bigger fair value gap on the daily. So for NASDAQ, it's still bullish. There's no bearish setup yet. The only thing that might give us a bearish setup on this pair is the gap between the weekly high and the weekly low is very big. So except price goes back below this previous week's low, this pair, most likely any rally on it will be an opportunity to go long. And if you look at, I think there's a daily fair value gap here. Yes. There's a fair value gap and this other block. So if we're looking at a retracement, we'll be looking at price will probably come in here, find support, and then continue back to the upside. So for NASDAQ, NASDAQ is still bullish. The next one we're going to be looking at is dollar index. Looking at the dollar index is still bearish. It hasn't swept this sell side liquidity, but as you can see, it's gradually losing downside momentum. Then if we go into the daily time frame, price, if you look at price, this big range candle, price didn't close below it. Price spiked the liquidity below it, and there's now what looks like a swing. Although this is still tilted to the downside, there's a possibility that going into the new week, we may see a bit of a rally, probably to sweep either of these buy side liquidity, and then probably, because I'm still expecting price to come down here. This sell side, I'm still expecting it to come down. That is at 109.29. So if you go down to the 4-hour time frame, there's a possibility this may rally and sweep out. You see what looks like an equal high here. It might sweep this equal high that's going into Monday, Tuesday, depending on what we see on Monday, whether there's going to be a gap up or a gap down on Monday. So if it sweeps these equal highs and starts coming back down, then there's a higher possibility it may come for that sell side liquidity at 101.29. But with the heavy high impact news on the dollar index this week, I would say caution should be taken. The caution will just be very well be taken. But this pair, the dollar index is still tilted to the downside. The next one we're going to look at is Euro USD. Euro USD, order flow is still bullish on this pair. Price is taking out buy side liquidity. It's not taking out sell side liquidity. If we look at it on the daily setup, it's still bullish. It's still bullish. Well, not with much momentum. Not with much momentum. If we go into the 4-hour time frame, we can see that price is like basically in a range. If we put in our notation, this is basically what we have. So the possibility exists that this may drop a bit and then continue back to the upside. This pair is still bullish. So you'll be looking for any sweep of sell side liquidity to give you an opportunity to continue back to the upside. Except the only thing that will change your view is if you go to the daily, this low here, you see all this down candle here. Once you get a close below it, then the view has changed. But as long as price stays above it, the bullish view on this pair remains. So the next one we're going to be looking at is GBPU. Huh? You say? Hello? Okay. The next one we're going to be looking at is GBPUSD. So looking at this pair is still bullish. It's still bullish. If we move into the daily, we can see that the daily candles are becoming a little bit smaller, and this liquidity here is still basically standing. There has been no proper sweep of it. If we go into the 4-hour time frame and put in our notations, we can see that this pair is basically looking like an expansion and a consolidation. So the possibility exists that this may drop and then sweep all this liquidity here. There's buy side, there's fair value gap here. It hasn't completely closed it. This, then this high, then this point. But this pair for now is still slightly looking bullish. There's no bearish setup on this pair for now. So the next one we're going to be looking at is gold. So looking at gold, gold for now is still basically bullish. Let me remove all my notations. It's still basically bullish, although the weekly candle closed as a doji, which is an indecision candle. Doesn't mean it will reverse, but it just calls for a little bit of caution. If we go into the daily, we can see that this is still slightly bullish. There's no new low yet. It's still slightly bullish, and price is within what looks like a bearish order block here. A bearish order block. So if we go down into the 4-hour time frame, well, this is still bullish. We don't have a new low yet. Price is still making new highs. So if we put in our notations, the possibility is that this may still move up. This may still move up. The only thing that might change that view is if we get a close below 1896. 1896. A close below 1896 or something like this. Price sweeps here, comes back up, then you might see it move lower. But apart from that, this pair has the potential to still rally to the upside. If you notice, it swept this buy side liquidity and rallied. So if it rallies, I believe it may still come for this.
Outside.
Sell side, sorry, sell side. It swept these two sell sides on Friday. This and this, and then rallied, but it didn't go too far. There was not much of a follow through because Friday was very, very dull. So I can't say basically for this pair, but it still has a bullish bias. It still has a bullish bias. And you know that gold is largely influenced by GBP, by the dollar index to a large extent. So I think that's what they might basically be waiting for. But two things stands out. If this pair is to continue up, it may try to sweep sell side first. It may try to sweep sell side and continue back to the upside. But this pair for now is still bullish until we get a change in character. The next pair we're going to be looking at is the Euro GBP. The Euro GBP, just like I said last week, that this is a bearish engulfing. Price retraced very, very deeply. Retraced very, very deeply. If it's clearer on the 1 hour, on the daily time frame, daily time frame, it has basically closed up this fair value gap and started retracing. So we already have a change in market structure here, a break in market structure. So this is like a retracement, and then there's a possibility this may continue going down. But we know that we have rate news on Thursday. We have rate news on Thursday on Euro. So that is another factor to consider. We have rate news on Thursday for this pair. So if we move into the annotations on the 4 hour, basically this pair may try to rally before moving back down, because for now, my view on this pair is bullish, is bearish, is bearish. So any rallies on it might be an opportunity for a short. Any rallies on it might be an opportunity for a short. So the next we're going to look at is GBPCHF. If we look at the GBPCHF from the daily point of view, although this pair is within a range, this high to this point on the weekly, if you look at it on the daily, it's making new highs and it's not making new lows. Again, it's making new highs and it's not making new lows. It's making new highs and it's not making new lows. So if we move into the 4 hour time frame, we can basically see what's happening here. So all things being equal, I believe this may try to sweep this previous week's low. That's this sell side and rally. That's what I believe. Because this pair is gradually setting up a bullish situation. So this might be its target. This might be its target. So the next pair we're going to look at is GBP. No, before we look at the GBPJPY, we're going to look at the yen basket. So if we look at the yen basket, it's still in a bullish range. Still in a bullish range. But if you let me remove all these annotations. There seems to be good liquidity here. There seems to be good liquidity here. If we go into the 4 hour time frame, it hasn't made a new low. This bullish order block is still holding very, very well. It's in the annotations. It's still holding very, very well. Then if we go into the 4 hour time frame, I believe this may sweep all these lows. It may sweep because it's closer to the sell side and to the buy side. Well, if you look at it on the daily, I would say as long as this bullish order block here, as long as it holds, as long as this bullish order block holds, as long as this bullish order block holds, this may still rally. So with that knowledge, if we go into the 4 hour time frame, we can see that price is sitting above what looks like a support, but it doesn't basically mean that it will bounce from here. No. If it's to go up, I believe it may try to sweep at least this low here before continuing back to the upside. So based on that knowledge, we're going to now look at the Euro GB pound. We're going to now look at the pound yen. So looking at the pound yen, if we look at it from the weekly setup, last week's candle was basically non-existent. There's a doji candle. If we go to the daily has what looks like a dark cloud cover. Daily has a dark cloud cover. If we go to the 4-hour time frame, we can basically see on the 4-hour that this is a range. As you can see, this is a range high, this is a range low. So looking at this, and if we are noticing price is hitting the highs, so the possibility exists that, because like I said, the yen basket is near his lows. So if the yen is going to sweep one of those liquidity levels, then this may sweep this previous week's high. The only thing that would change the bias on this pair is if we get a close, maybe basically 4-hour daily below 159.51, then you see something like this, then we might see a continuation back to the downside. So that's basically the scenario. So for pound yen, we're near the top of the range. So we might just wait to see if price will sweep sell side, buy side liquidity or sweep this neckline. Once it sweeps this neckline and closes below it on the 4-hour, then you have a bearish change in market structure. Then any rally will be an opportunity for a short. Do I have any questions before we call it a day? Any questions or any pair you want me to look at that I didn't look at?
So gold is still basically bullish.
Yes, but with a little bit of concern. With a little bit of concern. If you look at gold, the candles are looking malnourished, and that's not a good sign. You get? That means that it is, if you get in, you must have a target because they can change at any time against you.
Okay.
Well, I believe, let's look at it on the 1 hour. It might be, it may sweep this low. It may still try, because you know it took out this, took out this, took out this, but the rally, there was no follow through. You get? It was just like a bounce, which means that it might still drop. So let's wait and see what Monday does.
Okay.
I'll keep us updated. Any questions? Any other questions before we call it a day?
Thank you.
So in the absence of any questions, I wish everybody a blessed and beautiful Sunday and a wonderful week ahead. Remember, this week has a lot of high impact economic news. So you might need to step down a little bit on your trading lot size to avoid stories that touch. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you all for attending.